Hello and welcome to the Driving Maul Show. Hi, I'm Paul. I'll be your host this evening, and your guest, and everybody else as well. It looks like I'm flying solo this evening after a cracking weekend of the Rugby Championship action. There was also some the Pacific Fours going on and some under-20s as well. I'll be honest, I've not seen much of that, but we will just sum that up to bring you up to speed if you've not been following those tournaments that have been going on. But the main focus will be on the Rugby Championship and the game between the All Blacks and the Springboks as well. Don't forget, you can join us at 8 p.m. on a Monday, either on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. Just search for New Zealand Sport Radio. And also you can listen to the podcast as well if you prefer to listen to us as you go for a walk or run or do the housework or anything like that. So let's round up some of the action from the weekend and start off with the on the women's side of things. The Pacific Four Series came to a conclusion with New Zealand beating the USA 39 to 17 and Canada seeing off Australia 45 to 7. What did that mean? Well, that meant we had a table at the end there with New Zealand, 3 wins from 3 games. Sorry, 3 wins from 3 games with the bonus points, top table with 15 points. Next came Canada with 2 wins and a loss and 2 bonus points on 10 points. Australia, the solitary win there at the against the USA, won 5 points, and the USA with no wins and no bonus points from their 3 games with 0 points. New Zealand went out in front with a points difference of 103 compared to Canada 40 in second place and minus 47 for Australia, minus 96 across 3 games for the USA. So on average, losing their games by over 30 points each. So wow, a tough tournament for the USA there. New Zealand, Canada, and Australia will go into WX1, whereas the USA will head into WX2, which is the kind of the Nations Cup style competition for the women, and that'll happen in this November, where the top 3 from here, so New Zealand, Canada, Australia, take on the top 3 from the women's 6 nations. And sorry, I don't have the results up for that, for the 6 nations. So I'll quickly bring it up. So it's 6 nations, which had England topped that table on 28 points, France on 21, and Wales third on 15. So England, France, and Wales will be joining New Zealand, Australia, and Canada in that WX1 tournament that is going to be hosted in New Zealand. Simon informs us. So there we go. So the USA, Canada need a Major League Rugby for women would help them be more competitive in the long run. Look, all structures, all countries need to improve their structures around the women's game to allow the athletes to be full-time and to create depth in there and have proper competitions as well. I'll be honest, not something that I'm going to dive into now, but my main concern for the women's game is that they do seem to be basically copying the structures of the men's game, which we know aren't very good. We don't have a proper global season, and we have overlapping tournaments. We have different tournaments starting at different times of the year in different parts of the world. I mean, even in the Pacific Fours, the first game was back in April between the USA and Canada, whereas Australia and New Zealand didn't start getting involved until the end of June. So, look, steps in the right direction, but still a long way to go in this one. On that one, that was the Farah Palmer Cup kicked off last weekend. I'll be honest, I didn't keep track as to what happened there with that one. In the Under 20s, then, look, one of the strange old tournament, this one, 3 pools of 4, which then end up in semi-finals and things. So Pool A was topped by France, New Zealand coming second on 10 points there, whereas then South Africa won 9 points, go through, topping Pool C. Georgia also had 9 points, but trailed on some playoff. I think it was the game between those two sides, and South Africa won 33-23, even though both sides got 2 wins and a loss. And Georgia had a better points difference as well on 23 rather than 10, but South Africa topped that one. And then Pool B, Ireland and England came through there. England also on 10 points, only ahead of New Zealand because of points difference. So really a strange tournament there. So France, Ireland, South Africa, England headed up into that top group. New Zealand, Georgia, Wales, Australia, the middle group, and Argentina, Italy, Fiji, and Japan in that bottom group. The important games here: Japan came in 12th place, which means they'll get relegated from this tournament, losing to Italy 45-27 in that key game. The New Zealand ended up coming 7th, beating Georgia 50-26 after losing in that semi-final 44-35 to Australia, who ended up coming 5th. In the top 4, then the third place playoff was won by South Africa, beating England 22-15, and France beat Ireland 50-14 to win the tournament overall. So the 2 top teams in the world in the full male version also ended up being the 2 top teams in the under 20s and sciences. The under 20s second division tournament, the trophy is being played in Kenya right now, and that will decide who will replace Japan in this top tournament for next year. Commonly known as the under 20s World Cup, but actually it's called the World Rugby Under 20s Championship. That happens every year. So that's rounds up sort of some of the goings on around the world. One other point in the news before we head into reviewing the Rugby Championship is there was a cloud hanging over Johnny Sexton during the European Champions Cup final. He basically confronted officials, saying something along the lines of, "It's a disgrace you can't get the big discussions right," probably accompanied by the expletives, most likely the F word, apparently, to looking at the committee's report. So yeah, behaviour was totally out of order by Johnny Sexton in that case. He has been banned for 3 games, which is, funnily enough, the number of games that Ireland have to warm up ahead of the Rugby World Cup. So he'll be available for the Rugby World Cup there, and he. So yes, he's just going to miss the warm-up games, but he's going to be there for the Rugby World Cup. Look, is what he did right? Absolutely not, and he should be punished for it. Did we want to see him not being available for the Rugby World Cup? Not really. Let's be honest, at the Rugby World Cup, you want to have the best players playing. At the moment, Ireland are the best team in the world, and he is all ranked number 1 in the world, and he is a key player for them. Let's be honest, perhaps the most, him or Anton Dupont is probably the most crucial players heading into this Rugby World Cup. So, look, should he have got banned for more? Possibly, but at the end of the day, we did want him to be at the Rugby World Cup. However much you might like him might dislike him as a person, as a player, he needs to be there in his final Rugby World Cup. Because a lot of Ireland's prospects in that tournament really do hinge on him, and him staying fit as well on that one. I'll try. So I think the 6-hour deliberation was trying to square it, punish but not to ruin Ireland. Yeah, something along those sort of lines. So let's head into the weekend, and I know a lot of people have been very negative about the All Blacks over the last couple of years. And coming into this game, even though the All Blacks are coming off the back of that win against Argentina, there was lots of talk about how South Africa had sent ahead a bunch of players, so they would actually be less jet lagged than the All Blacks would be, and a whole bunch of other points. One of the things I said ahead of this game was I thought this game was much more important to Ian Foster and therefore the All Blacks than it was for Neymar and Rassie from the South African point of view. If the All Blacks lost big in this game, then there will be a lot of pressure on Foster to step aside and Razor to come in ahead of the Rugby World Cup. Now, would that actually have happened? Probably not, but there would have been public pressure or media pressure for that to happen. If New Zealand won this one absolutely comfortably in a blowout, then everyone would go, "Ha! Look, there's no problems," which equally could be a bit of a problem here. So this needed to be I think it was an important game for the All Blacks, much more so than the Springboks, and they duly stepped up and performed in this game. LB points out that the Box coach were pretty honest about sending the players over, saying they wouldn't be jet lagged, but probably rusty from being their first test. That is very true. And the All Blacks made 5 changes from the side that played in Argentina for this one. In our rugby chat, we're kind of like going, is this essentially the All Blacks side for the Rugby World Cup? And with bar about 2 players from a starting 15, I really think it is. The two players in question are Sam Whitelock, obviously coming back from injury. Would he start ahead of Scott Barrett? We'll have to wait and see on that one. And that 11 jersey, Mark Talia. I saw he got a pretty good rating in some of the papers, but I don't think he had that good a game personally. Meters made 52 off 12 carries, a couple of defenders beaten, passed a couple of times, got offloads. But I don't think that he had a particularly certain game, especially compared to Will Jordan, who had a cracking game on the opposite wing. So I think there is an opportunity there in that 11 jersey to see who might change there. Apart from that, I think this is a very settled side. The front row, maybe a couple of players could rotate or change there, but otherwise, I think we are pretty much there with the starting 15. Is there space on the bench to change? Yes, I do think there's room. There might be a few changes on the bench there. Will it be Philly Christie or can one of the other scrum halves force their way in? Would Braden NLB? Are there other players who can force? Perhaps I say so. And also, I mean, Caleb Clark is really the one that I'm sort of doubting there. Obviously, this was Tamati Williams' debut as well. So change on the bench maybe, but I think that's pretty much the All Blacks starting 15 or first choice starting 15 from there. Will they play every single game from now on? No, not at all. Obviously, they're going to be rotation, resting players, blah 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 ahead of the World Cup. But I think that's with the kind of like two more games, isn't it, ahead of time? I've got the game against the Wallabies over here, and then also the game against South Africa in at Twickenham as well on that one. On the and I think the other answer that we got out of this one is why wasn't Sean Stevenson picked? I think if you look at the way that Beauden Barrett's playing, i.e. the player in that 15 jersey, the way he's playing is very different from what Sean Stevenson can bring to that 15 jersey. And there was a very, very clear game plan in this game as to how the All Blacks wanted to play. They kicked the ball a lot, but they didn't kick the ball away much, which might sound a bit oxymoron there. 28 kicks in this game was the most kicks by any of the teams in the Rugby Championship this weekend. But they very, very rarely kicked for territory. I won't say never, because I think there was at least one Will Jordan kick for territory which went out on the full, which didn't work. So very, very rarely were they kicking for distance and territory. They were kicking to be contestable, or kick pass. And they really did play possession rugby, particularly in that first half there, which was important to how they went. And as the reviewer says in the live chat, New Zealand is scoring lots of points in the first 20, yet losing both the second halves so far a bit narrowly. Not too much is Bodenbach is playing more like a traditional 15, but pops up at first receiver sometimes, but not overriding Mo'unga. So it was important. So that in that first half, and one of the things I've said previously is that if the All Blacks can get parity up front or get front foot ball, then they've got the backs to create damage. Yes, we saw that, and I think Will Jordan in particular showed us why he is important to this to this All Blacks team, and probably in a World 15. He's a cracking player, creating a couple of tries and scoring one himself. So a very important player for them. About LB says that the All Blacks played a Bok game plan, and the Boks were trying to run it more. Teething out an attacking game takes time. Boks have 4 more games for Rugby World Cup. Yeah, look, it does take time, but I think also the Boks, the Springboks, end up having to play with the ball more because they weren't getting it kicked to them. In that first half, they were starved of possession, particularly in that first 20. They hardly had the ball, and that meant that when they did get it, they had to play with it, because they knew if they kicked it away, they weren't getting it back. The All Blacks were accurate at the breakdown, didn't lose many rucks, only lost 4 according to the stats, which is the exact same number as the Springboks there, and so they're forcing the opposition to play in a style. Because they just weren't giving the ball back. Someone Hughes, when did Funny Foss win the World Cup, then replace him with Robinson? Yes, would it be funny when Ian Foster wins the World Cup and he gets replaced by Razor? Yep. Well, look, that's what's been happening. Dr. Wright Frizzell demonstrated openly his worth. He was always good, but time to shine. Absolutely. Look, the All Blacks have finally found that cemented that 6 jersey. Look, we knew, give or take, the front row, 7 and 8. We knew who they were going to be, and the locks. 9-10, pretty obvious, as were the centres. But that number 6 jersey has been a real problem for the All Blacks, and that 11 jersey, I think, is a problem for the All Blacks as well. Other places they've had choices. Like, could you play Goodhue, Anselm Brown in the centres there? But they settled on 2 players there. But that 6 jersey was always a problem jersey to fill. Other jerseys, you didn't necessarily know who was going to have it, but you knew there were options there, and you weren't really too worried about who they are on that one. And getting on to the Springboks team. Look, this is a very good and experienced Springbok team, but they do have one place where they have an experienced player, and LB says we do know that Willemse is not a 10, that's for sure, lol. Well, we'll have to see, but yes, you did see the inexperience of Willemse at 10, and that is going to be a problem for this Springboks team. Is that 10, and who is going to play there? Will they bring back one of the more experienced ones, or will they try and stick with Willemse in there? LB says, yes, Sade's assistant coaches turn things around very quickly. Razor is going to dominate for 10 years, I see. Look, Ryan's doing a very good job with the All Blacks forwards, absolutely. But you also got to remember that there is, and I've just gone blank as to the ex-Ireland coach who is there on the attacking side of things as well. So look, it's not just Crusaders assistant coaches who are in there with that one. South Africa don't trust Willems with Leroux and de Klerk taking over. Well, maybe that's one way of looking at it. Look, this is still a very experienced team. I think, look, you've got some very good attacking wingers in there as well with your Cheslin Colby and your Mapimpi. But are they the kind of guys that you want diffusing high kicks and challenged high kicks? And perhaps that is a weak link there. Look, I know Colby can play fullback, but he's not the tallest winger around. And maybe that was so. Maybe there'll be some question marks if they're up against a kicking team like the All Blacks did here. Whether the Springboks would look at having different wingers in there. Otherwise, look, this is a very strong side. Can they replace front row? Absolutely. They've got two front rows. With Mostert's being there is and Quagga Smith and Wies. Well, look, obviously missing their captain in that loose trio, he would come in. But Lou Diego, Evan Etzebeth, that's a good engine room, obviously. Delende and Am, people are arguing they're the best centre combination in the world. So look, this was a very big side. LB says our loose forwards weren't balanced. I think that's the biggest issue. Quagga is not a starter. That's an interesting one. Yep. Who is your Lucy then? Lots of sixes available, but I'm not sure how many sevens are available for the Springboks. There, obviously, Peter Toy and Dwayne Vermeulen are. I was going to say are a 6 and 8, but obviously 6 is the open side flanker in South Africa. But those are I forgot what what's the open side, close side? No, it's not close side. I've gone blank. But short side. But yeah, did they have that depth at 7? Who's going to come in to that one there? Poor Grant Nesbitt, a bit confused. Put bluntly, Grant Nesbitt needs to retire from calling rugby. I'm sorry, it's time to move on. As you say, old. He is old, and he is making far too many mistakes nowadays around those sort of things. So yes, it'll be interesting to see how things do change. But Van Staden, let's see if he is the answer to that 6 jersey. But as was mentioned at the top there, I don't think that there is too much to. As I said coming into this, I don't think this game was as important to the Springboks as it was the All Blacks. The All Blacks needed this heading into this season. The Springboks, yes, there was a lot of changes from last week. There's a lot of rusty players who this is their first game, and so I wouldn't be getting too despondent on the Springboks and their World Cup opportunities or World Cup chances just from this game, especially off the back of that good win against Australia. Look, they have to start better at the end of the day. They have to find a way of getting hold of that ball and being better under those competitive high balls. And their forwards got a bit shock and awed at the beginning of this one. So they need to start better. In the second half, they got much more physical and did better there. Try to say, maybe start with Lebok. Look, I don't think change. I think it's a matter of starting changing 1 or 2 players or starting different players. I think it was a mindset and just not issue perhaps just not being ready for this game initially. Rather than anything on there. LB, I'm not worried as a box supporter, but these slow starts are becoming more common thing. Happened last year against New Zealand and France. And you've got to say, look, the Springboks have got an extremely tough group against Ireland and also Scotland as well. So they are going to need to hit what's the word I am looking for? Hit the ground running when it comes to the Rugby World Cup. I'm trying to remember what's. I'm just going to just quickly Google the their opening matches are looking like at the Rugby World Cup. The zoom down, and they're obviously in Pool B. Opening game against Scotland, that is an important one. So they have to hit the ground running with that one, followed by Romania, which obviously they'll be able to rotate players for, and then Ireland. But that opening game against Scotland is going to be very important. Scotland clearly are a dangerous team. We'll go into that very much as underdogs, but knowing that they really have to cause a major upset to get themselves into those quarterfinals. Pool B is a physical play style dominated pool. We're not really call Scotland that, but obviously Tonga will be there. But anyway, we will see how that happens. I think that first 20 team, it could stay with the All Blacks. Look, it depends on whether you're expecting it or not, and how you handle that style of high kicks. A lot of that was dependent on winning the aerial contest. If you could win that aerial contest, then I think you could have stifled the All Blacks. Now, yes, it was a very well tactically thought out plan. I don't know who at the All Blacks were in there, but let's not overcook the All Blacks as well. This is one game, a one-off game. They need to be reproducing this again, but they do show that when they get it right, they are a challenge. They are able to beat anybody, which shows that we do have at least 4 teams at the Rugby World Cup who are serious contenders or seriously in this one in South Africa, Ireland, France, and New Zealand. Now they're all on the same side of the draw, or in 4 groups. And we'll be playing each other in quarterfinals. So we'll lose 2 of those at that point. But still, definitely 4 teams there, as I say, that can do that. Trites kicks came after speed of ruck and passing. Absolutely. Look, I mean, they played very, very well. Don't get me wrong. And they were very accurate at the breakdown, which is what a lot of they were talking about. The technique right there, and technically was spot on, which allowed it to become quick ball from there, and then obviously once you got front football, it's much easier to play. Well done. So look, Ian Foster will be very happy with that. They're kind of very much be able to say, hey, look, I've all you people doubting me, I told you it would all come good. Now, let's just see whether it does. As I say, one game against a South African team that was rusty does not a season make. As the on that one, but I think we'll all of us be a lot more positive about the All Blacks going forwards. The second game then was between Australia and Argentina, and really sad to see that Ikitau, who scored the opening try for the Wallabies, got himself injured in that one. He's going to be out for 8 weeks now with that shoulder. Unfortunately, on that one. Now, because of that 6-2 bench, they didn't have a like-for-like replacement for him, which means how much can you actually end up taking out of this game for the Wallabies? That 13 jersey is going to be a problem jersey to fill, but to have lost that, to have to reshuffle so early in the game, and still come within 3 points of the Pumas isn't as doom and gloom, I think, as a lot of people are trying to make it out to be. 10-all at half time. I'm seeing lots of headlines are comeback win for the Pumas. But look, they took the lead. Australia took the lead first, then the Pumas took the lead, then Australia took the lead again. Then Australia took the lead, and then so it switched backwards and forwards on that. So that was a so look, that's it was swinging either way all the way through. So I think it's calling it a straight comeback win, I think, is a little unfair on that one. If we look at the tries then by, or at least two of the tries by the Wallabies, we had the interception try by Marky Mark, and then you had that try by Nick White where he dummied everybody at the scrum, went around the other side and scored. So two tries there that were kind of opportunist tries. Let's be honest. To even get themselves in the front, I think Argentina were the more dominant team in this. Now they'll be Wallabies threw the game away, no experience how to close out the game on that one. But I think I say everyone's sort of concentrating on that last sort of 5-10 minutes. There was 60-70 minutes before then when they weren't sort of leading and in control of this game. And I think we're kind of playing down how well Argentina played in this one, where they kind of dominated where the game was played, 60-odd% possession in the right areas. Should they have allowed the game to have been close at the end? Probably not. They probably should have been gone and more. Should have won this game by more. They gave away less penalties. They didn't give away any yellow cards. Whereas the Australia gave away more penalties, had a yellow card as well, so we're down players. So in some ways, we would say that a lack of accuracy by the Pumas allowed Australia to be in this one, especially when you think about the interception try as well. So I don't think Australia should have even been in this game, and that the Pumas should have won this one more comfortably in the end. That's a personal opinion on that one. Positives for Australia. Look, brand new coach, new coaching style. It's going to take time. So again, don't to have been within this, to be this close now, admittedly, with those two tries that I mentioned there, that not well, at least one of them was against a run of play. That they got through a hell of a lot of work defensively, 200 tackles compared to how many was it again for to only 80 by the Pumas. So a lot of grit to stay in this game. They both missed the same amount of tackles, even though the Wallabies made more than twice as many of them. So look, really big defensive shift. He's got the right attitude from the team, but they've just got to be able to get hold of the ball and play with the ball, and that's going to takes time to learn the systems and to be comfortable with each other. Does he have much time before the World Cup? No, he doesn't. But it's only the second game in for Eddie on that one. So yes, the LB says Oz have the players to win the World Cup. They just have to get the game plan and discipline right. And yeah, there is that. And look, and also when you look at their pool, they've got some more warm-up games than anybody else, if you think of it that way, because in their pool they've got Wales, who, let's be honest, are in a bad place. Fiji, Georgia, and Portugal, all the other teams you'd expect them to beat. So they should come through that. There aren't any particularly nasty games there, so they can be playing and learning their game plan all the way through until the quarterfinals. Even the quarterfinals, they could be playing in the quarterfinals where they're probably going to meet Argentina or Japan at that stage. So they've got longer to get up to speed, as it were, compared to a Springboks or an Ireland, who have to arrive with their game plan working day one. Same with France and the All Blacks. To a lesser degree, because with France and All Blacks in that pool A, Italy, Uruguay, Namibia, none of those three are going to really challenge them to come out of that pool. Who wins that first game between France and New Zealand doesn't really matter at the end of the day. They're both going to come through into the quarterfinals, where they're going to play either South Africa or Ireland. Who knows which? In some ways, losing that game might actually get you an easier draw. So yes, so Scientists, I think Australia giving Eddie a contract till 2027 is not a good idea. Yeah, I mean, will Eddie be there after the World Cup? Who knows? I mean, the way he's been talking, you're not sure if his mind's really in it or not. But we'll see how it all kind of pans out on that side of things. But for the Pumas, getting that win is important, but they need to be more clinical and put away more points when they have the upper hand if they're going to go deep in the World Cup. Look, they should make the quarterfinals, which is between them and Japan. I think England, will go through. So it's important actually they arrive at the World Cup in form, because otherwise they could get tripped up by England and Japan and suddenly find themselves out of it before it's even really got going for them. So an important one for them for how they arrive at the World Cup as well. It's been just me blabbing for just over half an hour. And I think I've said what I know or what I can think of from those games. We get a weekend off then. There are some international games this weekend, but no with Fiji taking on Tonga and Japan taking on Samoa this Saturday. Then the following Saturday, we've got Samoa versus Fiji, and then Rugby Championship game between the Wallabies and the All Blacks. 9:45 PM game in New Zealand. That's over in Australia, and then on the Sunday at 5 a.m. our time in New Zealand, South Africa versus Argentina. The Europe, also Japan versus Tonga, and Samoa, Fiji, I mentioned already. And then European sides also getting involved with Scotland versus Italy with a warm-up game. Namibia versus Argentina, second team, and Uruguay versus Chile also. So a lot of rugby coming up in 2 weekends' time. This kind of weekend, just those two games in the Pacific Nations Cup, Fiji, Tonga, and Japan, Samoa there. Actually, I'm not sure if the Pacific Nations Cup as a tournament, but anyway, those are the games that are happening. So we'll be back, looking forward to review those, have a chat about the results of those games at least, and then look forward to that Bledisloe Cup game and the final round of the Rugby Championship. All stay safe, have a great week, and catch you all next Monday at 8 p.m. Oh, don't forget, on Wednesday night, we've got the Rugby League show as well. Wow, our multi actually came in at last. So hey, reduced our losses. We're definitely not in the profit zone. So have a great week, and catch you all later.